Chapter 7. What Fun They Had. It is possible that in the near future there may be no schools, and like today, the human teacher may become a thing of the past. Will e-books replace the books of today? Read on. Margie wrote about it that night in her diary, on the page headed 17 May 2157. She wrote, "Today Tommy found a real book. It was a very old book." Margie remembered her grandfather had once said that when he was a little boy, his grandfather had told him that at one point of time, all stories were printed on paper. Tommy turned over the pages of the book, which were yellow and crinkly. It was so funny to read words that stood still instead of moving the way they were supposed to. On a screen, you know. And then, when they turned back to the page before, it had the same words on it that it had when they read it the first time. "Gee," said Tommy, "such a waste. When you have finished the book, you must throw it away. I guess. Our computer screen must have 1,000,000 books on it, and it's good for plenty more. I wouldn't throw it away." "Same with me," said Margie. She was 11 and hadn't seen as many telebooks as Tommy had. He was 13. She said, "Where did you find it?" "In my attic." He pointed without looking because he was busy reading. "What's it about?" "It's about school." Margie was scornful. "School? What's there to write about school? I hate school." Margie always despised school, but now she hated it more than ever. The mechanical teacher was giving her test after test in geography. She had been doing so badly that her mother had called the county inspector for help. He was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools with dials and wires. He smiled at Margie and gave her an apple, then took the teacher apart. Margie had half hoped he wouldn't know how to put it together again, but he knew all right. And after an hour or so, there it was again, large and black and ugly, with a big screen on which the lesson was shown and the questions asked. The part Margie hated most was the slot where she had to put her homework and test papers. She always had to write them out in a punch code they made her learn when she was 6 years old, and the mechanical teacher calculated the marks very fast. The inspector smiled after he was finished and touched Margie's head. He said to her mother, "It's not the little girl's fault, Mrs. Jones. I think the geography sector was geared a little fast. These things happen sometimes. I have slowed it down to an average 10-year level. Actually, her overall progress is quite satisfactory." And he touched Margie's head again. Margie was disappointed. She had been hoping he would take the teacher away altogether. He had once taken Tommy's teacher away for nearly a month because the history sector had become blank completely. Tommy looked at her with very superior eyes. "Because it's not our kind of school, stupid. This is the old kind of school that they had hundreds and hundreds of years ago, centuries ago," he added proudly, pronouncing the word carefully. Margie was hurt. Well, I don't know the kind of school they had centuries ago. She read the book over his shoulder for a while, then said, "Did they have a teacher?" "Yes, a man." "A man? How could a man be a teacher?" "Well, he just told the boys and girls things and gave them homework and asked them questions." "A man isn't smart enough." "Sure, he is. My father knows as much as my teacher does." "He can't. A man can't know as much as a teacher." "He knows almost as much, I tell you." Margie wasn't prepared to argue with that. She said, "I wouldn't want a strange man in my house to teach me." Tommy burst into laughter. "You don't know much, Margie. The teachers didn't live in the house. They had a special building and all the kids went there. And all the kids learned the same thing. Sure, if they were the same age. But my mother says a teacher has to be adjusted to fit the mind of each student it teaches, and that each student has to be taught differently. Just the same, they didn't do it that way those days. If you don't like it, you don't have to read the book. I didn't say I didn't like it, Margie said quickly. She wanted to read about those funny schools. They weren't even half finished when Margie's mother called, Margie, school! Margie looked up. Not yet, Mama. Now, said Mrs. Jones. And it's definitely time for Tommy too, Margie said to Tommy. Can I read the book some more with you after school is over? Maybe, he said hesitantly and walked away whistling, the dusty old book tucked beneath his arm. Margie went into the schoolroom. It was situated right next to her bedroom, and the mechanical teacher was on and waiting for her. Except for Saturday and Sunday, it was always on at the same time every day because her mother said little girls learned better if they studied at regular hours. The screen was lit up. It said, Today's mathematics lesson is on. Addition of proper fractions. Please insert yesterday's homework in the proper slot. Margie did so with a sigh. She was thinking about the old schools they had when her grandfather's grandfather was a little boy. All the kids from the nearby areas came, laughing and shouting to the schoolyard, sitting together in the schoolroom and going home together at the end of the day. They learned the same things, so they could help one another on the homework and talk about it. And the teachers were men and women. The mechanical teacher was flashing on the screen. When we add the fractions half and half, Margie was thinking about how the kids must have loved it in the old days. She was thinking what fun they must have had in those days. Let's understand the lesson.